There's nothing quite like watching a child with ADHD stand directly next to the thing that they need and still not see it. The backpack is right there, the shoes are right there, the water bottle is right in front of them, and your patience was there briefly. And you're thinking, how many times do I have to keep saying the same thing? Hi, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Ask Mom Parenting podcast, where we take the mystery and the yelling out of modern parenting and offer real life self help for parents. I'm Sue, and with me is Randy. And whether you're deep in the toddler tantrums, navigating tween and teen drama, or somewhere in between, you'll get clarity and actionable tools one episode at a time. If you'd like to support our podcast, please share it with another parent or leave us a rating or review. It helps us reach more moms and dads doing the hardest job we've ever done for no money. There's nothing quite like watching a child with ADHD stand directly next to the thing that they need and still not see it. The backpack is right there, the shoes are right there, the water bottle is right in front of them, and your patience was there briefly. And you're thinking, how many times do I have to keep saying the same thing? But saying it better, or saying it louder, or saying it one more time until the vein in your forehead pops out and does a little dance won't stop us from having to repeat ourselves over and over. What will? Not treating ADHD as an information problem. They don't need more of our talk. Most of these kids, they know what they're supposed to do. They just need to develop a different set of skills. Skills like organization, planning ahead, and having a system in the home that's designed to back them up in a way that supports how their brain works. And that's where parenting ADHD kids gets powerful again. Today's episode, how to help your ADHD child before medication. What do we do when our child has ADHD or ADHD-like struggles, and we want to help them function better without making medication the only plan? I'll be clear, I am not anti-medication. There's a time and a place for it. What I am for is learning what creative options exist for parents that are under our control before going right to medicine as the only answer. The meds conversation is for parents, doctors, professionals who know your child. Today's conversation is about building skills and structure at the home that ADHD kids can take with them into adulthood. We're teaching parents all the tools that are within their power to help their child first. A parent's leadership can develop these skills so that kids can always have them in their back pocket. Too many parents feel like once ADHD enters the conversation, their power gets handed over to a diagnosis or a school system, a medication plan, or a professional. And I want to hand some of that power back to you. Yes, ADHD challenges are real, and I've worked with many families to overcome them. But that doesn't mean that your child is helpless or that you are powerless. Your child may need support, and they may need accommodations. They may even need medication, but they also need a specific skill set, and that's a great place for us to start. Here's why skills first matter. All kids, and especially those with ADHD, they need simple routines and structure that helps their day fall into place in a way that makes sense for them. From us, they need fewer words and consistent daily follow through. Basically, they need a more simple routine and a simple daily life. ADHD is not an information deficit disorder. Most of these kids, they know what they're supposed to do. They know the shoes need to go on. They know the homework needs to get turned in, and they know the screen has to be shut off. The struggle is often accessing the focus, the impulse control, the organization, or the follow through in the moment. And that's why repeating ourselves or lecturing harder does not help. More information isn't the missing piece. The missing piece is access. Access to the part of the brain that can pause, prioritize, remember, and follow through. ADHD is not a knowing problem, it's a doing problem. And this is where parenting matters most. In the moment, the bridge between I know and I can make myself do it is not holding. So when we keep explaining ourselves, we're often giving more directions to a brain that already has the directions. What it needs is structure, external cues, simple steps, less shame, a starting point, and a system that helps the brain initiate instead of just understand. Because the long game is not just getting through tonight's homework or tomorrow morning's shoes and backpack circus. The long game is helping this child become a capable adult. At 22, they need to be able to manage their time by themselves, hold a job, regulate emotions, get themselves out the door on time, and follow through on commitments while also advocating for themselves. None of those attributes will develop simply from us constantly reminding them. It's up to us to teach and train these skills. Many of these kids are corrected constantly at school from teachers, from us, from coaches, from siblings, told to sit still, don't interrupt, pay attention, hurry up, slow down. Why do you keep forgetting? Until the child starts feeling as if they are the problem, and then they lose belief in themselves to do anything right. What we don't want is for a child with ADHD to internalize the narrative, I'm the difficult one, I'm the bad kid, I'm the one who can't get it together. Skills first parenting helps us reestablish that this child is capable in their own eyes. Capability is what we're instilling. We're not trying to engineer the ADHD out of the child. We're reimagining a home environment that meets ADHD kids where their brain is at, and that is setting them up for success. So the environment teaches the body what to expect, especially for ADHD brains. By reimagining home layouts and routines, kids learn early that their environment can support how their brains naturally function. Those small adjustments imprint lifelong skills on how they'll someday set up their own rooms, their workspaces, or their homes. For example, as a left-handed person, I'm convinced that I could have conquered the world if I'd grown up in a house designed for left-handed people. I'd change door swings, I'd change faucet handles, cabinet flow, appliance openings, kitchen prep space, and probably my laundry room. And if I didn't conquer the world, then I would have at least looked a lot less clumsy opening my drawers, holding my coffee mug. So ADHD is not an information problem. It's a follow through, regulation, structure, and consistency problem. These are all things that the good news is, as parents, we have control over. So that means that our parenting has to shift from more words to better systems.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about skills first and definitely interested in the better systems. I think as parents, definitely all of those things, you kind of learn quickly that all of those things really help us in parenting. And it's hard because like when you feel like your child knows what they're supposed to do, it's easy to just assume that they're choosing not to do it. But it sounds like you're saying that knowing and doing are not the same thing. And I love that you're talking about the ADHD brain as being different. And I think a lot of times, especially as parents, it's easy to kind of forget, especially if you have one ADHD child, others that aren't. It's hard to kind of switch knowing that they have, they're just, like you said, having trouble accessing that part of their brain, which really, really stuck out for me. Um, so when you're talking about skills first, what does that actually look like at home for parents?
So when I say skills first, what I'm talking about is the work that we can do inside our home before we assume that our only option is outside intervention. So this is to show parents that they actually have more influence than they may have realized. So we can change the flow of the house. We can change the way instructions are given. We can change the number of decisions that the child is expected to make. And we can change whether the child feels constantly corrected or genuinely supported. And all of those transitions and shifts, they really matter because a chaotic home makes an ADHD brain work even harder. So a rushed morning makes follow through harder. A parent repeating themselves all day makes the listening harder because again, it's not an information problem, it's a follow through problem. It's an action problem. So skills first parenting asks us to step back and look at the whole setup, not just the child. the rhythm of the home, the routines, the visual cues, the way that we respond when things go sideways. This is where parents can become incredibly powerful, and we're training a child to understand how their own brain works.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I don't even have ADHD, and I know for me, and I'm an adult, the rhythm of the home is so important. And I know how much I can get thrown off if systems aren't in place or things are just starting to feel chaotic. So I can only imagine how kids feel, especially a child with an ADHD brain. Years ago, I actually had a couple jobs working with kids, and especially I had a little period of time where I worked with teenagers, and many of them had a diagnosis of ADHD. And both the parents and the kids themselves, I know they like really longed for something like this. I know they would have loved, like something like a skills first, because they would, especially the kids, they would actually come out and kind of say it. And this was during a time where this really wasn't talked about. So I think this is like a really important conversation. And I know, having talked to parents of kids with ADHD, I know they would love some practical ways to make a difference in their home today. So, what are some practical skills that parents can start doing to support their kids?
Oh, well, I've got five ADHD support skills that will make a difference in your home right away. But as you were talking, as you were talking about working with the kids, I do work with quite a few families whose children have ADHD, anxiety, a lot of these extra things that their brains are working through before they can actually cut through the clutter of what's expected of them. And it reminded me, and this isn't one of my five, so this is something that I just really learned recently, and so it's just a bonus. This is a bonus suggestion if you aren't already aware. But there is a local chiropractor, a natural chiropractor that we have a symbiotic relationship. She passes parents to me, and I pass people to her. But what she does is she focuses on the upper cervical. And I may have mentioned in previous podcasts, but it took me years to realize that if you go to a chiropractor or you're interested in chiropractic, again, I'm not pushing anybody, but this is just an idea that I know I went through. My upper cervical was out, and I was batshit. Like my neck was out. I couldn't get comfortable. I kept moving around a lot. Anyway, went and got that adjusted from a specialist and came to find out that they really specialized in children, and children with ADHD, hyperactivity, anxiety, sometimes even at birth. And if you're going through a difficult birth, I know I did with my oldest, we worked very hard together for several hours to get him out. And their necks are just misaligned, and we deal with it. We don't really realize what's going on. But anyway, she does some amazing work on just adjusting kids to get their body back in alignment, and especially this upper cervical. And the research is there. I personally lived it. So that's something parents can look into if, you're looking for alternatives to medicine. And again, I didn't even remember to suggest it until you were talking, and I was like, oh, I should mention that. But anyway, I do have five support skills that will work and I think make a difference in your home right away. So the number one skill is to set the space. So you want to have a space that's conducive to how the ADHD brain works. We're going to reimagine your home environment so the brain doesn't have to work so hard. And I'll get into all of these, in a minute. But like number two, build self-awareness. Build that self-awareness skill inside your child. Practice having them listen to themselves first. Besides getting external prompts, teach them that a skill is to go inside first and listen to their body. Number three is to find the start button. A lot of times with kids with ADHD, they just can't get started. They just don't know. They're overwhelmed by any task that needs to be done. So our job is to instill the skill of helping make beginning easier so the brain does not get stuck in not yet. Number four, get the energy out. These kids are so pent up with energy. They have way more mitochondrial energy than the average kid. Give the bottled up energy somewhere useful to go. And then number five is to let your system talk. So I talk a lot about this in every podcast about how to set up systems. And then when the system is explained and trained and running, a lot of times the system sort of speaks for you. So have a predictable kind of phrase to simplify communication when your child is stalling, spiraling, or bouncing. So let's get into a little bit more info on each of the five. So, number one, set the space. Make the home do more of the reminding so that you can do less talking. Let's zoom out for a second and look at your home in a new, more creative way. So, as an example, when our triplets came home, we had four kids all around. We had an older one, 3 years older. We had a group of kids around that same age group. Okay. And, I looked at my dining room and I was like, this is just a completely wasted space. I wasn't having people over. My house was full of toys and dogs, and it just wasn't practical use of square footage in my home with these four kids. So I turned the dining room into like a mini school room. I bought a little school table with little chairs, and then I had tons of project bins. I bought like a shelf, and there were probably about four, like, I don't know, 16 bins, and each bin was filled with drawing books and bead designs that they could iron and make a little decoration. I still have them up on my bulletin board right now, even though they're in their 20s. Coloring books, Legos, stickers, magnetic pieces to build. And then I also looked at the landing space at the top of our stairs and was like, that's wasted space. So I redesigned the landing space at the top of the stairs as well as the large corner in our kitchen. I made that a space off to the side where I put up a table for my older son to build his models. And he just had his own table and he could make a mess and he could leave the pieces out and he could glue it. He could be part of the family dynamic, but off to the corner and have his own space. So I kind of looked at my home and reimagined the space and designed it for the kids, with the kids in mind because I needed the space to be, a functioning area for my family. And that time period and those age groups is just a blip of time in the scheme of things. And, I didn't care when people came over and saw, I didn't care. My house was built for the creativity of my kids. The shift for ADHD is how can I set this house up so I don't have to remind them as much? We want to design the home with a distracted brain in mind. And I have, a couple of little ideas. Idea one is everything has a landing spot. All right. So ADHD kids do better when the important things have a home. The backpack always goes here. Water bottle goes here. Sports gear here. And I'm going to keep saying this, but in everything we do with and for our kids, involve your child in the process. It is the number one thing I have to remind parents in workshops where they keep struggling thinking they need to have all of the answers and they don't. Get your kid involved at every age. They have an opinion. They have a way to solve something. And sometimes it's a hell of a lot more creative than what I was going to come up with. So look at your life, see how you can simplify what's the thing that they're forgetting most, the backpack, the water, the lunch, whatever it is, and build a landing space for that and help your child decide where that landing space is. And then the second little idea is make the invisible visible, especially with ADHD kids, anxiety kids, like they're bouncing. And a lot of what we expect our kids to remember is invisible, right? So morning routines, the practice schedule, expectations of what has to happen before screens, the bedtime order. We hold this all in our adult brain, but kids can only care if they have a say in it, and they don't know. They need visual cues. So ADHD kids need a visual reminder, and not like because they're babies, right? It's because it's offering support in the home. The checklist goes on the fridge. A picture of the routine, maybe by the door, depending on age. A whiteboard in the kitchen. A calendar that everybody can see and contribute to. A sticky note on the bathroom mirror. Or a basket that's labeled school things. Visual reminders beat verbal reminders almost every time. Again, depending on age, get your child involved in coloring the little reminders, helping them decide. Kids will use a system that they help create. Number two, we're going to build some self-awareness. Help your child notice what's happening inside their body and their brain before the behavior takes over. So sometimes it might just be a little prompt from us. Before kids can self-manage, they have to self-notice. ADHD kids are often corrected for what we see on the outside. But the first clues usually happen on the inside. A child can't manage what they haven't learned to notice, and self-awareness will always come before self-control. We're giving our child prompts to check inside before reacting. So the skill will become a habit once we've trained it. Show them to pause and notice what's happening inside me right now. Am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I overwhelmed? Am I stuck? Am I rushing? Because once they can name what's happening inside, they have a better chance of asking for help or choosing a reset or starting again before the behavior takes over. And best yet, solving it for themselves. But sometimes if we just give that little prompt and tell them, hang on, what's happening inside? Do a self check. What's happening? What are you feeling? Put a name to it and then have them act from there. Number three, just find a start button. Find a way to teach them how to begin when their brain is stuck. And again, that can also be another self-awareness prompt. Are you feeling stuck? Okay, here's how we can solve that. Many ADHD kids don't struggle with knowing what to do. They struggle with starting. This is huge and very specific. Parents think the child is refusing when maybe they're just frozen at starting. So instead of go clean your room, teach the start button. Go pick up three things. Just three things. That's so easy. It's such a consumable instruction. Put the laundry in the basket. That's just a start. Clear only your desk. That's all you have to do. Organize just your desk. Set the timer for 3 minutes. For ADHD kids, starting is a skill. We don't want to mistake stuck for lazy. Number four, get the energy out. Again, I've worked with many families who have kids with ADHD, and these kids are full, they're bundles of energy. And I know that we're doing a lot of screen time these days with kids, and they're learning on computers, but they're also gaming, which is a skill. I'm not anti-gaming, but especially with ADHD kids, they truly need to get out and get their bodies moving. They need to have their body be given somewhere useful to put the extra energy before asking to focus. So before homework, try 10 wall push-ups, a quick walk, carry the laundry upstairs, or racing the timer to clean up 5 things. This isn't rewarding chaos, okay? It's helping the body get the brain online. And before you scoff at this, thinking, oh yeah, right, she's crazy. I'm going to have my kid do wall push-ups. I know. I mean, I lived the life. I know my kids would have looked at me like I was crazy. But I coached a family with a 5-year-old son who has ADHD. And he was waking up every day at 6 a.m., just ready to go. And mom and dad needed a quick redirect on just, how to handle this. So we all came up with a plan. His dad decided to make a plan to get up and do calisthenics. And I'll be honest, I was wondering, if this was going to work. I'm thinking, what 5-year-old is going to want to get up and do calisthenics? But, they know their son. So they planned it the night before, and their son was so excited when he went to bed. Like he could not wait to get up and lead his dad in calisthenics and push-ups. They did push-ups and pull-ups and some sit-ups. So then they gave him a family role, and I talk a lot about this in my podcasts. Kids need purpose. So he's got all this energy and he wants to feel useful and he wants to have a purpose in the family. He happened to love making breakfast, even if it meant pouring cereal and putting milk in or toast or putting jelly on the toast. So we decided to give him that role for the family on school mornings only. So when I tell you that this kid woke up thriving, ready, and happy, his parents were ecstatic. The dad had to get up a little earlier, but now he wasn't just up bothering people, waking people up. Everything was planned the night in advance. He knew what was coming. He got to lead his dad in some exercises. He was getting all the wiggles out early in the morning, and then he went downstairs and made breakfast for the family, his brother and his mom and dad. And I mean, a complete turnaround. He went from being a really clingy kid, not being able to fall asleep, and just all this energy with not knowing where to put it, to a kid with a purpose and a role. So thinking creatively with these types of ideas gives parents something practical to do besides saying calm down or sit still. We can teach the child what helps your body to get ready. And the last one is let the system do the talking. Use short, predictable phrases instead of repeating, lecturing, or negotiating each day. So, for example, first backpack, then outside. Simple, clear, start with one. Show me the first step. That's it. when the child's feeling overwhelmed, just show me the first step. That's it. Let's just start. These phrases give an ADHD brain a track to run on, and you're not explaining the entire history of why shoes matter. You're using a simple system and a sentence that points them back to action. Create a couple and then keep them on repeat to back up your system. The structure that you create manages the moment, so you don't have to keep managing the child. So, if you want to set an ADHD kid up for success at home, try these skills first before trying medicine, and design your home around their brain and how it actually works. That's how you stop fighting the ADHD and start giving them functioning skills that they will carry for life. If this episode helped you see your child's behavior just a little bit differently, please share it with another parent who needs less shame and more practical help in their life. And if you want help building simple systems in your home that reduce yelling and chaos, sign up for my one-on-one coaching at askmomparenting.com/coaching. And you can also sign up for my newsletter at askmomparenting.com to get quick weekly tips so that you can handle everyday parenting problems with a lot less second guessing. Thank you for listening and happy parenting.